Good evening. Thank you, Venkat, for that very warm introduction. It is a privilege for me, it's an honor for me to be here this evening with all of you at this fundraiser. When you look back, all of us, as I see in the audience, most of us grew back in home in India, having come here. And for us, back in India, religion was a way of life. It was not taught in a very formal way. We just went with the flow, found out what was happening in our homes, in our communities, and that is how most of us grew up. But having come here, crossed the 10,000 miles and come here, it is important for us to establish our roots. It is important for us to make sure our children, and for Kala and me, our grandchildren as well, understand what we are all about, understand our roots, our deep religious beliefs. And so for us, it was one way of learning, but that way of learning will not necessarily be the way to learn here in our new home in the United States. And so for us to have these temples in Connecticut as a source, of going there and seeing what all we know, we grew up with, but for our children and for our grandchildren to see what happens in our homes. And then of course, their minds will always ask, how come this and how come that? Why this and why that? And therefore, it is important, it is critical, as you all know, that we need to have the Bala Vihars. That's the foundation, that's the basis by which we are able to inculcate in our children and future generations about our religious beliefs, our religious values. A simple case in point, the kids get asked, our kids I'm sure get asked all the time, how come you in the Hindu faith have so many gods? And they have to have an answer. They need to know. They cannot say, oh, today is this and tomorrow's that and the day after that is this. We have to come up with an answer for them. And that is what education, that is what the Bal Vihars are all about. I was very fortunate to be involved with our temple in Middletown right pretty much from its inception. And you remember having the Bal Vihars at the temple as well, the Sunday school as we used to call it. But that was not convenient for the entire state, for the children across the state to come. And so it gives great joy to see that across the state, whether it be in Rocky Hill or Newington, whether it be in Fairfield or in Orange, we have these various centers, spiritual centers, seat of education, where our children can learn, where our children know our deep roots. Some time back, I'm sure you're all very familiar, we heard this very disturbing comment made by one of the Indian American policymakers. The comment made was, once we have crossed and come to this country, we need to forget where we all came from and accept what happens in this country. All of you, I'm sure, including me, vehemently oppose that theory. We are Indian Americans. Everything good about the United States is part and parcel of us. But we cannot forget the good that we have learned back from India. So for us to be able to incorporate our values, our religious values, our rich culture, our rich heritage, and then become a part and parcel of the United States. That is what an Indian American is all about. And that is what thank you. And that is what we do here, for example, in the Chinmaya Center of Learning. the children are taught, and of course I heard that there are satsangs for adults as well. Tomorrow, I'm told, and I'm very pleasantly surprised that tomorrow there is going to be a kind of a chanting for Gita chanting, and that is going to be a competition for Gita chanting. And I could not believe that 45 to 50 kids and young adults are going to participate in this challenge today. That speaks volumes of what Chinmaya does. And finally, for me, coming here today brings back very, very pleasant memories of my own childhood. Swami Chinmaya, as we all know, traveled extensively in India. And when he would come to Mumbai, where I was growing up, a young child, and then moved to Ahmedabad as a teenager, there would be times, multiple times, where my parents would drag me and my sister to go and listen to his various teachings. The first or two times, we would go very reluctantly. Who would? What teenager would want to go and listen to these discourses? But we all know, we have heard how fascinating, how mesmerizing he is. And that teachings, what we have learned from him, coming down through these various systems, is what we are going to teach our children and our grandchildren. I commend very much the Chinmaya mission here in Orange, in Fairfield, in New Haven, for all that they do. And I'm sure that for years to come, they will be the center for learning for what we are, who we are, and that is important for us, for our background, for our rich culture and our rich heritage to flourish in this country, in the United States. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to say a few words this evening. Thank you.